Hi guys, I'm Reha and you're about to listen to a BBC Trending podcast. But before you do, just a heads up, it's only audio. Here's just another place to listen to the stuff we make. We're trying something new here. We hope you like it.
Have you ever come across a video sharing app called TikTok? Well, I suppose the answer depends on how old you are and how much you're into social media. If you're under 20, if you have children, especially if you have teenagers, the odds are that you have. But if you haven't, well, let us explain. TikTok is a bit of a funny place.
As soon as I opened the app on my phone, I swiped through an endless stream of videos. People reenacting their favorite comedy skits, lip-syncing to their favorite artists. Some people dancing, some people completing challenges set by others. It can be a happy, easygoing place where users, a large chunk of them in their teens, are encouraged to be creative and post what are sometimes highly produced videos.
It's proven to be a winning formula. TikTok says that it now has more than 500 million monthly active users. And last year, it even managed to beat Instagram in terms of the total number of downloads. So it's pretty huge.
TikTok is open to anyone with a smartphone, provided they're at least 13 years old. So what you end up with is a space where kids, looking for the popularity of a social media star, the glitzy life of an influencer, end up putting themselves in front of a camera without realizing that sometimes, among their audience, there may be adults, not always with the best intentions at heart.
I would ruin you.
Will you be my little schoolgirl?
How much for an hour?
You'll have nothing on after I'm done with you.
That's just a small sample of the hundreds of comments we spotted on TikTok videos uploaded by teenage girls. And they run to the more tame end. There's some other ones which we just cannot broadcast. We're talking about comments here that are either sexually explicit or at least have very strong sexual connotations. And every now and again, we came across adults, posting messages, say, inviting these kids to come and spend a weekend with them or offering to meet up.
So, how aware of the problem is TikTok? What is the company doing about it? And perhaps, more importantly, can TikTok really protect its younger users from it?
This is the BBC Trending podcast. We take an in-depth look at the world of social media. I'm Mike Wendling.
And I'm Marco Silva. And for the past 3 months, I've been investigating TikTok. What I've uncovered makes for difficult reading for the company. At times, they struggle to take down sexually explicit comments that we flagged up. And they've allowed the people posting these comments, the people harassing these teenagers, to stay on the platform despite their actions.
But to truly understand this story and the scope of our investigation, we need to go back in time and look at the meteoric rise of TikTok.
It all began back in 2014 with Musical.ly.
Now, that is spelt musical.ly, altogether Musical.ly.
That's right. And Musical.ly was a social media app created with a simple premise: to help people create short videos, up to a minute long, where they could lip sync to their favorite songs. It grew incredibly fast, 90 million users in just 2 years. And it wasn't long before parents started getting wind of it.
My daughter came home and told me that all of her friends had Musical.ly, and why couldn't she also have it?
That's Anastasia Basil. She's a writer based in Los Angeles, in the US. She's also a mum of 2 and knows her way around social media. When her daughter asked her to download Musical.ly onto her phone, she got curious and decided to take a look at the app by herself before letting her daughter sign up.
That night, after I put the kids to bed, I decided to download the app.
And she created a profile for herself.
I hadn't been on there for 15 minutes before I saw something that was so shocking and alarming that I was stunned, and I thought right there, well, that's it. No way. I call them tweenie Kardashians, and they're mimicking behavior and sexually explicit dance moves, and they are mouthing songs that have expletives and that speak directly about sexual intercourse. And these are little kids, and they know all the words, and they're doing all the right moves.
Now, before you go ahead and start saying Anastasia is a moral fanatic...
Oh, I'm so the town prude.
Let's not miss out on the bigger picture here. Just think about it. What happens when you publish photos or videos of kids on the internet and allow people to respond to them without much outside interference? Where is that likely to lead?
Tons of sexual harassment.
And that's exactly what Anastasia found as she went through various comments areas. Dozens of sexually explicit comments.
And if you click on the user profile of the person who's making the comment, you can sometimes see that this is a grown-up. This is not a child, or their identity is not masked in any way. It's a man, generally, and they are either soliciting the child to become friends with the child, or they're making explicit comments about the child's appearance. They're encouraging the child to do more, to perhaps remove a little bit of clothing. I was very surprised that this arena exists and that children and predators can interact together. Obviously, the child doesn't know any better. It's not the child's fault.
Anastasia never actually let her daughter go on Musical.ly, and even published an article online about her brief experience on the app. As it turns out, she was not the only one who'd voiced concerns over Musical.ly.
Children bombarded with sexually explicit chat on Musical.ly.
Dad shares predatory messages sent to 7-year-old daughter on popular app.
A pervert tried to groom my daughter on Musical.ly.
What you heard there were news headlines about the problems that plagued the company until as recently as 2017. The public pressure on Musical.ly kept growing, but then something changed. At the end of 2017, a Chinese company called ByteDance bought Musical.ly for nearly $1 billion. They already owned a separate app called TikTok, which sort of did what Musical.ly did. So they merged the two, and TikTok, as we know it today, was born, ready to take the world by storm. The company grew and morphed into this social media giant, the new kid on the block with more than 500 million monthly active users worldwide. That's according to their own figures. And so, under scrutiny, the company brought in new tools and policies to handle some of the problems that had plagued Musical.ly.
Kids have a little bit more control over their accounts in the settings.
That's Christine Elgersma. She works for a non-profit organization in the US called Common Sense Media. They advise parents on how to help their children use technology safely. She's been looking at some of the tools TikTok brought into play in recent years.
So there's a privacy and safety section where kids can control if their accounts are private or public. They can control who can comment, if people can comment, who can contact them. And there's also a restricted feature that is password or passcode protected, so that if parents want to try to limit the amount of explicit videos that kids can see, parents have that option.
Let me just recap here. So, users can decide who gets to see their account and how much people can interact with them. And parents, well, they can control the type of videos their children get to watch and limit the amount of time their children spend on TikTok.
At least it provides a little bit more control, which I feel is sort of a nod to the fact that young teens and people younger than 13 are definitely using TikTok.
Now, TikTok says you shouldn't be on the app if you're under the age of 13, and that those who break the rules will have their accounts terminated.
Now, that's a pretty standard rule, of course. Other social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they have a similar age restriction in place.
Yes, but this has been a particularly sticky point for TikTok. Last February, TikTok actually got fined in the US for collecting data from children under 13. And as a result, they've had to change the way they work. In the US specifically, they've been asking users to send some sort of ID to verify how old they are. And they're also splitting users into age-appropriate environments. What this means in practical terms is that the older you are, the more features in the app you'll be able to access. And that includes, for example, how much you can interact with other people.
But Marco, you said in the United States specifically, right? In other words, if you're in India or you're in Canada or you're in the UK, does that mean the same old rules apply?
Yes, and without a proper system to verify people's age, what this means is that children under 13 can easily trick the platform. And the truth is, for this investigation, I've had to spend quite a bit of time on TikTok, okay? But it didn't take me a long time to find under 13s in there, some of whom even felt comfortable enough to admit their age.
So Marco, what does TikTok say about this? Do they admit they have a problem? And do they have any plans to extend that ID requirement to other countries outside the United States?
Well, we invited TikTok for an interview with the BBC, but they declined our invitation. Instead, they sent us a statement which, while recognizing that promoting a safe and positive app environment is their top priority, failed to address this particular point. Now, ask yourself if this is an app where children in their early teens can be found. Can TikTok really guarantee they'll be safe online? Can they guarantee that while on the app, these teenagers can be shielded from sexual comments made by adults? From grooming, even? That's coming up next.
I'm Mike Wendling, and with me is our reporter, Marco Silva. He's been spending some time on the video sharing app, TikTok, trying to find out what the company is doing to stop adults from making sexual approaches and comments towards children.
That's right, and at this stage, there's someone I want to introduce you to.
It's about to be a girl fight. Remix!
That's the sound of a TikTok video I came across in early January. Two teenage girls sitting in bed, playing with their hair, lip-syncing to the lyrics of the song, and mock-fighting each other. I wouldn't say it's necessarily funny, but it's playful, it's trendy, the kind of thing you'd expect to find on a teenage girl's social media account.
I post mainly comedy videos because I think it brightens people's days and it makes them feel better, which it makes me feel better putting them out there.
Garland is one of the girls on camera and the person who uploaded the video onto TikTok. She might be just 16, but she's managed to build an impressive following on the app. She's got more than 2.5 million TikTok fans. Pretty big, but despite her success, she's surprisingly down to earth about it.
I also like doing a little bit of just lip singing and just singing the songs, some of my favorite songs. But mainly, yes, I love doing comedy.
Any artists in particular that you enjoy lip syncing to?
Definitely Ariana Grande.
And while Caitlin sings, or at least lip syncs, to the tunes of Ariana Grande, her mum Shayna is keeping a close eye on what she does on TikTok. She says she's been there from the very beginning, watching the type of content she posts online, and more importantly, the type of responses she gets from her fans.
So, we just kind of thumb through, and if I see something that makes me eerie or that I don't completely agree with, then she has the capability also to go in and, delete comments like that. She also has the capability of, if there's a whole, line feed underneath that, where if comments get ugly or she has the capability on her end to go in and kind of mute, the comments and things that are being said under that particular video, well as delete, a comment, one at a time.
I'm wondering, have you ever felt that your daughter received any sort of sexual harassment on TikTok? Have sexually explicit comments ever been posted on your daughter's account?
Sure. I am not that I am aware of. I do. I ask Caitlin from time to time. She's gotten so many, followers and the comments. There's quite a few to read sometimes. So sometimes we don't hit them all. We can't read them all. But as far as I know, I haven't seen any, of the sexual, explicit, or anything like that.
But here's the thing. I did have a look at the comments in Caitlin's videos, and then I looked at the comments posted on hundreds of other videos uploaded by teenage girls just like Caitlin. And I found some pretty horrific stuff in there. The language used is way too graphic for me to describe on the radio, but I'm talking about comments with sexually explicit messages, or at least very strong sexual connotations. Users asking these teenage girls to perform sexual acts, admitting they're aroused by a particular video or a particular girl. And as for the people making these comments, you'd imagine they'd be mostly anonymous users. But no, every now and then I did come across grown man, middle-aged man, unashamedly posting these comments on videos uploaded by young girls. And here's the problem. Some of them insist on engaging with these young users again and again, even when they're told to go away. Let me play you this particular exchange I came across. I asked some of my colleagues to voice these comments. And in case this wasn't already clear, this goes against TikTok's own rules. The company states very clearly on its website,
if we become aware of content that sexually exploits, targets or endangers children, we may alert law enforcement or report cases as appropriate.
And also,
do not use public posts or private messages to harass underage users.
So, having come across hundreds of sexually explicit comments online, having understood the dimension of the problem, I wanted to find out whether TikTok was doing anything about it. So I came up with a simple test, which I ran twice. Each time, I reported exactly 100 of these comments and waited for 24 hours. Then, a day later, I went back to see whether they'd been taken down.
Marco, I know you were very, very methodical about this. I had a look at the spreadsheets that you created to keep track of the results. It was meticulous. It was pretty nerdy.
Yep, proper nerdy stuff. And so when I went back a day later, I went looking for two things. I wanted to check whether the comments themselves had been taken down. They were, after all, hugely inappropriate for a platform where you have kids. And I also wanted to find out whether the people actually posting these comments, sometimes grown men, had their accounts suspended as a result of their actions.
Right. And so how did TikTok do?
The first time around, most comments I'd reported were still online. And only a handful of these men actually got their accounts suspended over the comments they posted.
Okay, that doesn't really sound too good. And then you approached TikTok before repeating the test a second time.
That's right. So I told them about my test, I told them what I'd found out, and waited to see what they were going to do about it. Fast forward 2 months, I repeated the test with new comments, and this time around, to be fair, they did better. They managed to remove most of the second batch of comments I'd reported, but still, of all the people who posted these comments, only 4 seem to have had their accounts suspended.
Now, playing the devil's advocate here, maybe some of these people who left nasty comments, they went overboard and they became like highly sexual just on this one occasion.
Maybe, who knows? But I've been looking at hundreds of TikTok videos for the past 3 months. And what I can tell you with certainty is that some of the people leaving these sexually explicit comments don't do it just once. There were usernames that kept popping up on my screen again and again and again. A mix of grown men, teenage boys who clearly went on TikTok with a specific purpose of sending sexual comments to children and teenage girls. And the point is, what happens to them after their comments are taken down? Well, not much really. They seem to be allowed to stay on the platform and just move on.
You mentioned earlier that we approached TikTok for an interview.
That's right. They said they wouldn't give us one, but a TikTok spokesperson sent us a statement saying that while progress has been made in their fight against misuse of the platform, the work is never done on their end. And they added,
we're committed to continuously enhancing our existing measures and introducing additional technical and moderation processes in our ongoing commitment to our users. We have deployed technology that helps to automatically filter inappropriate content, and we proactively and continuously develop new safety features and technology. We have a dedicated and growing team of human moderators to manually cross-review tens of thousands of videos and accounts, remove inappropriate content, and terminate accounts that violate our terms of service and community guidelines.
Remember the video we heard earlier? The one where Caitlin and her friends stage a mock fight? Well, that's one of the videos where we found a sexually explicit comment. It's too graphic for me to read out again, but I reported it to TikTok, and guess what? 24 hours later, it was still there. So I put my findings to Caitlin and her mum.
Yes, that does make me worry just a little bit. That is pretty bad.
How does that make you feel?
Angry. Because obviously, it's not something that I did see. I don't know the full extent to the explicit amount or, what the comments said. But it does make me, it makes me feel angry. It's a little scary, because, the amount that I do try to do as far as monitoring, that there is always that certain one or that certain incident that's going to slide, that we can't monitor every single one of them. But I do feel like that, that TikTok, that is something that they should monitor a little bit more in depth. I mean, especially if they're going to have, such young followers or such young fan base or such young kids even doing, the TikTok app.
It breaks my heart to see that those type of things end up going on a social media app that is mainly for kids. And I don't think it's right that that they should even be allowed to be having those out there.
The bottom line, there's still quite a bit of work TikTok needs to do to protect its younger users from being targeted for sexual purposes. I put the question to Shayna. Knowing what she now knows, is she going to try and persuade Caitlin she's better off TikTok, where she's built such a huge following?
It's a great app. I mean, I have nothing, bad or wrong to say about it. Like I said, it's brought Caitlin, I believe, a little bit of self-confidence. But, if it had started out this way and seeing those type of comments, if they were on there often, it wouldn't be something that I would allow my daughter, to continue at that point.
And that's it for this edition of the BBC Trending Podcast. I'm Mike Wendling.
And I'm Marco Silva. Our sound engineer today was Nigel Appleton. Special thanks to our production coordinator, Janet Staples, and our editor, Jeremy Skeet.
Just a reminder before we leave you, if you'd like to support what we do here, please leave us a review and a rating. It only takes a few seconds, and it really does help people find the program. You can also give us some feedback. You can find us on Twitter or on Facebook, or you can email me, my email, michael.wendling@bbc.co.uk.